Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge Podcast. In this podcast, each episode is a journey through captivating interviews, engaging dialogues, and personal anecdotes that explore the depths of arts, culture, politics, and everything in between. My goal? To leave you inspired, informed, and entertained. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. So whether you're an art aficionado, a political junkie, or simply someone seeking a fresh perspective, this podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to the program, kids. I have with me right now Jacksonville's most interesting man, Mr. Jim Alabiso. Jim, how you doing?
Hi, Tracy. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. How you loving this Florida weather right now?
Well, until we started doing the podcast, I had all my windows open. But we got right on the corner of King and Riverside, so we get ambulance, helicopters, and whatever on the corner. So I had to shut all the windows. But I love it.
I know, right? I know, right? Hey, so let's go. Before we get into the meat of the program, tell my friends, fans, and followers, who the heck is Jim Alabiso?
Oh my goodness, that would take like 3 hours.
That's okay.
I do a lot of stuff. Basically, if you wanted to put it into one word, I like to create stuff. And that's really what it boils down to. So like, when I write a book or write a song or we do a play or we do a television show or I'm doing software engineering or AI stuff or it's always a creative process one way or the other. So that's really what it's all about. I just have fun making stuff and I love collaborating with people. And that's kind of the crux of create and collaborate and create. That's kind of what I like to do.
That seems to be what a lot of creators in Jacksonville have told me. Whether they be, painters or performance artists, singers, songwriters, everybody likes to create, within a group and,
Sure.
and bring together their, combined,
Sure.
experiences, in a life. And you've done quite a good job of that.
Well, it was I've kind of grown up that way, and to work together with people. Probably the best lesson I ever had in collaboration was my first really great lesson as a collaborator was I worked on the Exxon Valdez spill in 1989. And it was I was with a few guys and we were all stuck in one little office doing some work on the spill. And we were able to we had like these 4x8 tables around and we just spin our chairs around, ask each other questions. And we would just make whatever we had to make work because there was always somebody smarter than you in the room at some given subject and everything. But that, so it kind of works in everything. And I've given talks like at UNF and a few other places about collaboration. And part of it is just collaborate with people you trust because, and I don't mean just trust in the sense, trust that they're just going to put their heart and soul into it and not to have any kind of crazy expectation at the end, not to try to control things. Like I work with Barbara Colacello on All the Angels Come, and we did that play. Do you want to go to the rehearsals? No, I went to one rehearsal, and that was it. I didn't, she and I collaborated on writing the script and all that, but it was like, what are we going to do for the music? We brought in some people from the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra and Bolt City Ensemble, and they said, well, what do you want it to sound like? I said, just read it and do your thing. And it was amazing. And then I gave him one piece of advice, and that was, what was the name of that story? David Bowie did a narration, Peter and the Wolf, and they had an instrument for every character, So I said, just do something like that, and they did it, and it worked. Marcus Williams did the artwork, and he drew each character, and I didn't give him any guidance. It just came out of his head the way I saw it without me even asking, So, and it just so happened that Mal Jones, who played Willis in the play, looked exactly like the character anyway. So it was great. But it's like that in everything. When we do the big river events and collaborate with all the experts, with the people that you know, the people that you love, the people that you trust. And it's okay if it didn't come out exactly what you thought it would. It's okay not just to have this try to control an outcome. It's really more about, like they say, to be cliche, it's all about the journey. We had a blast getting there.
Sure.
So same with the television show. We
Sure.
had a blast getting there. And we made mistakes and we screwed up. I was nervous and whatever, but it was okay, It was a blast. So anyway, yeah, create and collaborate.
Absolutely. Now, in your experience, as a writer, producer, performer, what's the most profound moment that you feel your most profound moment when your work deeply resonated with your audience?
Wow. Well, it depends on which audience it is, but I would say I would go back to All the Angels Come, because I got a call from Players by the Sea, and the director there at the time, and wonderful man, and he wanted to make a play out of it, and we talked about a director and whatever. We got Barbara Colacello, etc., who did a wonderful job, and so again, I didn't go to the rehearsals or anything, but when I went to see the show, and it was full house. People were sitting in the aisles. It was just wonderful. And I lost it because it was received so well, and they did such a great job, and it was the actors did such a great job, and such a moving moment for me. And we did one other play, To the Sea, that was performed over at the Cummer, and I did the same thing. I just watched this story come to life, Kelby Siddons actually wrote the script. I just told her the stories, and she wrote the script. As a matter of fact, it was kind of a weird moment because, we went out in the lobby over at the Cummer. I got there about a half hour before the show, and there's like one or two people hanging around. I'm like, oh crap, man, nobody's going to watch this. This is going to suck. And then a couple people drifted, And then Kelby asked me to come in and help her with something in the gallery where it was performed. I didn't perform it. And I was in there for like 30 minutes. I come back out, the place was packed, and they were adding more chairs. And I was like, it just, I don't know. It was great to see. It wasn't just about the play. It was great to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
A plan comes together, like they used to say on the A-Team, right? George Papard, with a cigar, Hey, I love it when a plan comes together. And it was just great to see all these people that were involved in the show to all come together and just make this wonderful thing happen. They made it more beautiful than the original.
So that makes you feel real good. I could totally understand that. The other day I had an interview with one of your friends, one of your open water swimmer friends, Dr. Sarah Sohn, and she had. You have friends. And yes, we talked about I have a daily routine. You have your routine where you go to the sea, and you do the open water swimming. I live in the woods. That's right. I live in the woods, and my daily routine is I go for a walk out in the woods in my bare feet, and I get grounded to
Oh,
Mother Earth. And to me,
yeah,
that's I would think that's just as much. It means just as much to me as open water swimming does to you.
sure. I bet it does. You can't get more grounding than getting your toes in the
Yeah, it's
dirt.
kind of, and we laughed about the fact that every year I always post about naked gardening month or naked gardening day.
When I interview
Yeah,
you sometime, I'm going to ask you about it. Because in my sport, we call it skinny dipping,
well,
and you're
well,
grounding,
you know what?
and you're grounding.
You're right. Well, I'm 63 years old, and I can tell you when I
Oh,
was
I got you.
growing up, it when I was
Yeah,
growing up, there was absolutely nothing wrong with going skinny dipping.
yeah. Now you can get
I mean,
arrested.
I know, yeah, right, I know. Yeah, but
I'm too old to go skinny
hey,
dipping.
you know what? I
I'd vacate the
I
beach.
would
You
think
would leave the beach.
I would I would think that given the fact that you're an open water swimmer, you're in far better shape than I am.
I don't know. I'm older than you. Things start to fade. So, but
You know what?
the thing.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's really not about anything but quality of life. Like when you go grounding in the morning, it's not going to make you live longer. You never know what's going to happen the next day. You may live longer from walking and moving your heart and moving your muscles a bit or swimming or whatever. But in the end, it's all about, what did I do today? Was it a great day? You know, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like, it's almost like a journey in a big collaboration in a play or a show or a swim or whatever we're doing. It's not about the end game. The end game only lasts an hour. It takes a month or two or three or four or a year to get there, and you got to enjoy every minute of it. So it's kind of like, yeah. So every day that I can get in the water is a wonderful thing. So I've been out
Yeah,
for a little
and
while, but
you had
yeah,
mentioned when we were on the phone the other day, you had mentioned something about, well,
yeah,
hey, when we have aged out, when we age out.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I actually brought that up to Sarah the other day in our interview, and I told her, I said, no, I haven't aged out yet. I might be an old fart, but I haven't aged out yet.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like, well, obviously you're not because you're kicking ass. I mean, you've got a lot of interviews under your belt and you got plenty coming up. So that's a great thing. But, aging out simply means it's kind of the wrong term. It's kind of like, it's like as you get older, things start to break, muscles get sore.
Yeah, sure.
You're not as strong as
Oh
you
yeah.
used to be. It takes a longer time to recover from absence from swimming, or takes a longer time to recover from an injury, so things kind of slow down, so but I was out because I had some health issues. I'm going to go back in hopefully this week, so I'll never leave it because those are my creative moments too. Well, like I don't just when I'm out swimming, I write in my head, the next chapter of a new
Sure,
book
sure.
or whatever, and then I just write them down as quickly as I can when I get in the car or dictate them in the phone or whatever, So one thing
Yeah.
that's really important
Hey,
when we're talking about this, it's like when you're walking in the woods, do you ever get ideas when your feet are grounded?
yes, yes, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like when you're in that meditative mode and you're open to stuff that's when the ideas come. And I love, Paul McCartney used to tell this story about yesterday. He still tells it, for goodness sake. when he wrote Yesterday. The song, not the words, just the melody, came to him in a dream. And he was so convinced that it existed elsewhere. Somebody else wrote it. He had to ask all his bandmates, hey, mates, did you ever hear this before? No, they never heard it before. It's never been written before. So he said, okay. Well, so he started playing the piano and he made up some words. I think it was scrambled eggs, how I really love those scrambled eggs. And my girlfriend, she's got pretty legs. And he did that until he got the tune down. But it just came to him. That was the point. And if you listen to Chris Martin in Coldplay, when he talks about his creative process, he doesn't say, I wrote a song. Never says he writes a song. I never say I write a song like Barry Manilow. The songs, the ideas, the poems, the chapters, they're a gift. They come to you. And it's kind of it's kind of like I was given an idea. And this is the other part of the collaborative spirit is if you don't, the only way you really can claim ownership of an idea or something that you wrote is through a copyright, right, trademark or a patent. But that makes the idea yours in society. But I don't ever believe an idea is yours and outside of the societal realm. You know, the idea is given to you, and then you take it and you either do something with it or you don't. But if you say, I have this gift, somebody gave me this idea about All the Angels Come. It was just given to me one day. I was outside of Bold Bean Coffee, actually, and across the street on Stockton Street. And it was like I was given this idea, and I shared it with all these people. I collaborated with some people, you know, when we did the play and all this kind of stuff. And I even collaborated when I wrote the book because what was that book Alexander Dumas wrote? He wrote Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo. Right? And when he wrote the Count of Monte Cristo, he wrote it actually in 18 parts. And he published it in a French political newspaper, one chapter or one section at a time, right? Stephen King did the same thing with The Green Mile. Mark Twain did the same thing as well. And so you get feedback. So you put out, part one, and then people write in and they go, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. This is a good idea. And then your story twists and turns and whatever. So even that type of thing is a collaborative effort. And it was nice to have that back and forth, It's just like when a concert over here, I'm not a big performer, but when you see a band go out there and perform, their performance is a lot different than what they do in the studio. In the studio, it's very technical, but when they're performing, it's just this give and take of energy, right? And then it becomes more of a flow.
So you say you're not a performer. You say that. However, back when you were hosting the Tonight Show with Jim Alabiso, you really did leave a lasting mark. The people that were friends, fans, and followers. And there was one particular monologue that you did in the opening segment.
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, it was a hard one because you asked me what was my most moving movement, and I forgot about this one. This one was writing the monologue and performing the monologue. Even though they're two different exercises, it changed me in a lot of ways because you got to watch it on YouTube. Maybe you can post a link in the podcast or something later, but it was basically, I'll tell the short of it, but the short of it is that when I was a little boy, it's around 68 or something, the Monkees had just come out with Daydream Believer. That's why we call it the Daydream Believer episode. During that time, I went to parochial school, and the kids just bullied the crap out of me. I mean, they just knocked my self-confidence down to the ground. And so I just got bullied all the time. So I used to spend a lot of time in my room. And I loved music from the time I was a little kid. The first song I ever heard, which I think was hang down your head Tom Dooley. I mean, what was it? I can't remember the name of the trio that did that. But I had the 45, and my dad had bought me this little one of those 45 record players that has a lid that goes up, and you put the 45 and you put the needles down and all that. And I
Yep.
got the Daydream Believer.
I had one.
Yeah, I wish I still had it. I had the Daydream Believer 45. I put it down, I put the needle in, and I would just basically close my eyes and pretend I was Davy Jones on stage, and everybody loved me because outside of my mom and dad, my brothers, and a couple of friends, nobody loved me. They bullied the crap out of me. So it made me feel like, oh, look at me. I'm Davy Jones, performing in front of this big crowd. And in the monologue, I talk about, I pretended they were throwing bouquets and bras and all kinds of stuff up on my stage and all that.
Yeah.
And then mother brought me back down to earth because I could hear her outside my closed door because I didn't want anybody to see me. She says, Jimmy, turn the music down. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a big crash because all my fantasies went away. And, but that's made me feel good. And so when I did the Daydream Believer monologue, I told that story in a lot more detail, but it was hard for me to talk about being bullied, and it was hard for me to get up on that stage and actually see those people for the first time. We had 150 people or so in the audience. And it was just, kind of like an 8-year-old dream or 10-year-old dream come true for me, and it's not, doesn't mean that everybody in the audience loved me by any means, but, I was the class clown and, I was always trying to get attention. So doing that, and going through the exercise of actually writing that told me some things about myself. And then actually performing it just friggin' nailed it in and said, okay, Jim, you don't have to pretend anything anymore. You can just be the hell who you are. And these little kids from my Catholic school just aren't there anymore. So, it's just a trigger, just a trick your brain plays on you. And from that point on, that was like a 5-year creative explosion of writing To the Sea, writing All the Angels Come, writing the plays, doing the swim stuff. I mean, it was just amazing what it did for me and brought back my confidence back. So yeah, that probably had a bigger impact on me than pretty much anything else in terms of changing my life, that COVID and a couple other things, but that was a big mover. Yeah.
I can totally relate to you, Jim, there. Me growing up a ginger, redheaded kid, in the South, and my sister and I were both bullied quite a bit growing up. She and I endured a lot of bullying. And I think a lot of it changed. A lot of it changed down the road when I came out as a member of a band. I was playing it. I started playing drums, and the bullying stopped. And people started showing up at our house. I grew up in San Mateo over in the north side, and we practiced in my dad actually built a room on the house for us to practice in.
Daddy.
And he is still an awesome dad. But yeah, I mean, he was always around. He was all about the music. Him and my mom, they used to take me to gigs. And I remember my mother's father, God rest his soul, rest in peace, Mr. Ray Mosier, was the owner of Fat City Saloon and probably one of the most well-known at the time in the 70s and 80s. Ray Mosier, the singing fireman.
It was
and he owned,
Wasn't
yeah, he owned Fat City Saloon out at Mayport, and he used to
oh
book us all the time. He used to book us all the time for gigs. When I was a kid, I was
yeah.
like
Oh, good dad.
15, 16.
Yeah.
I was like 15, 16 years old, and my uncle was booking our band at his bar, and my mother hated it.
My first gig, I was living in Lauderdale at the time. I was underage, but I played in a bar as my first gig, and the first song we did in the gig was "Maybe I'm Amazed." It was right after McCartney came out with his new solo album,
Oh, yeah.
so we did "Maybe I'm Amazed." And once again, my confidence was shot to hell when I sneezed right after the second verse. Great.
It happens.
Yeah, that was a
It,
wonderful moment. But I generally not much into like performing music. I'm more into creating and writing. I got off to the side here. I got a Yamaha keyboard and got a sequencer and Pro Tools and a bunch of guitars over here. And I like to write. So one of my songs on Spotify, Mike Burnos produced it, who lives right down the street from me. The band leader for the Tonight Show band that we had. So
okay.
and he produced that song. I got another one for him, but it was just it's just fun creating for me. Like I was saying before, I if I got in front of people with a guitar, I performed actually performed two songs. I wrote a song for Brittany, who was the lead singer of the Tonight Band, and I wrote it for her. It was kind of a gospel-y thing because I have a lot. Brandon Flowers is the lead singer of the Killers, big influence on me. But if you listen to his songs, you kind of hear a lot of hymnal overtones, words like redemption and thunder and lightning and stuff like that. And there was one of these songs he wrote called "On the Floor," and you could have, if you would have changed the words, you could have sung it in church. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was down in Salt Springs. And on the way back from Salt Springs, I just listened to hymnals all day on Spotify. And then I learned some of the chord progressions and I wrote this song just for her. And so I said, okay, Mike, can we have Brittany do this song? You guys play it and all that, and she can sing it. He says, no. He says, you guys are going to do a duet. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, he had to talk me into it. And, but I ended up doing it. And then I did one other song, a Coldplay song, I think. But that was about it in recent, 2-decade history. And if you want to call being
Yeah,
a talk show host a performer, well, I think I told you when we talked earlier that, it's really an improv gig, and
sure, sure. Like what we're doing right now. Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.